What's up, bro? How you feeling?
Good, man. I just moved to Miami this year.
Nice.
So,
how you been liking it? Or has it been like a giant change?
It's been a giant change for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, for all those people that have moved to Miami, I'm sure they know the experience,
Yeah.
right? So I'm from Toronto originally, and I actually been working with Tainy remotely for the last like 4 years.
Quite a change, by the way.
Yeah, big change. Yeah, but you know, data was just so powerful, and it went so well that the team was like, all right, just get them down here, and we'll do this times 10.
Oh, yeah, we'll work it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been a lot to like get used to, but obviously, you know, there's a lot of amazing people here, a lot of amazing art, like yourself, you know, a lot of great dudes out there. So I'm getting used to it, but you know, it's the first time moving away from home. So
yeah,
it's a change, but change is good. That's,
it is.
That's how you make progress and grow.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know you, like what's your background? You know, you say you're from Toronto. You're listed as the creative director of data or data, however you say it.
Yeah.
But like, what did you do before, like that project or like that specific thing?
How the hell did I get here?
Right.
Yeah, crazy journey. I still wake up sometimes and I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah.
I'm in Miami right now? What's happening?
Yeah.
It's one of those ones where you just sort of, I've been doing it for so long now, you just forget all the work you put in.
Yeah.
But holy crap, there was a lot of work put in. So
I bet.
For me, like I started drawing and painting when I was like 5 years old. And I was just one of those kids that like always had a little notebook with him, always was just drawing cartoons and watching films. And like, I also just refused to nap as a kid. Just had always so many ideas and wanted to work on things and, you know, tons of energy. So all the kids would be like on the floor just napping, and a teacher would have to supervise me so I could go in the corner and be like, all right, dinosaurs, Dragon Ball Z, like all that stuff. So I did that for a long time. And then I fell in love with music when I was like 13 years old. I heard like Blink-182 and like Nirvana for the first time, and I was like, all right, well, I know what I'm doing for the rest of my life.
Yeah, it's like that rebellious age where you're like,
oh yeah,
Blink-182 is like,
exactly. Slam the door every day, right? Screw you, mom, you don't know me. Throwing the water balloons, all that stuff. Got the slingshots. Yeah, like I was heavy into like that rebel art culture. So that was like the Pandora's box for me when I first like discovered art and music. And then as I got older, I realized like, oh shit, like I can't sing very well. and I love like having a lot of control over projects. I'm not really someone that's just like contributing like a little bit. I like to like, I have a strong vision just always. Everything that I do, I really see it like clearly right away. So for me, it would have been important to like be a musician and to also be able to like sing and be a front man. And I kind of realized like just the way I grew up and just like my talent and just my own persona, like I probably wasn't going to be like a professional guitar player. So that was like
heartbreaking.
Yeah. I was like, oh fuck, dude. Yeah, like my one dream, I didn't get it. Like I was like, I don't think you know,
my life's over.
Yeah, like exactly. It's like if I wanted to play basketball, then you like hit your peak height, and you're just like, yep, that's not gonna work. Well, I guess I'll figure something out. So it was that, and then I stopped doing art for like a little bit because I was just like, well, I don't know what to do now. And then I was really big into like entrepreneurship. So for all my 20s, I just like started a bunch of businesses. I did like door-to-door sales for like 4 years. I started everything under the sun you could think of as a business idea. I did it, like personal training, tutoring, car detailing.
Oh shit.
Random. I started like multiple little like creative agencies. I have an art gallery, rental studio in Toronto as well. So I have all these like random ideas because I was full of vision and energy. So those skills though that I learned in my 20s, just hustling and like learning how to like sell your work as a person,
extremely important.
Exactly. Yeah, like half of how you get hired, like in any industry, is just based off of how great you can present your work and talk about it. Like a lot of times, like yes, the work can speak for itself, but that's like 1 in a billion people. A lot of times to get your foot in the door, it's like how much the person likes you, how much they're willing to work with you. Like if there's a connection there, if you're a great communicator. So I spent like indirectly without knowing like 10 years practicing like sales, I guess, and business. Right. Yeah. And then I went to school for kinesiology for some random reason. And I don't know, I was like pressured from like family. And then within like a month, I just like secretly dropped out. And then my parents were like, like one of those, right? What the hell are you doing? You got to do something. And I'm like, fuck, I don't know. All my businesses failed. Like, I don't know what to do. And then I rediscovered art again. And I was like, maybe I can do, music, but like the visual side, and maybe I can like do photography. Yeah. So I just like picked up a camera for a couple of random jobs, and just naturally I was really good at it, because it was almost like drawing and painting, but like instantaneous.
Right.
Because I already knew for like the last whatever 15 years of my life how to like compose a photograph or a painting. So I would just frame everything as if it was like a finished drawing, and they just turned out great because it was just faster.
Right, right.
So right off the bat, like my photos were way ahead of just any beginner because I had all those years of practice. And then people started hiring me for more and more photos, and then eventually I was like, okay, well, in today's age, like to just be a photographer is very hard, you know, especially because everyone's asking for like, oh, can you do this? Can you do that? And it was because of the high demand in the industry, how everyone's just looking, everyone needs everything now, right? Well, do you do this? Do you do that? Or like, right? Like, can you also make videos? Can you also like, we need a logo. What about this? Can you add special effects? Like, do you have a team for, and as an entrepreneur, like the golden rule is like at the beginning, you just don't say no. So from that experience, I just said yes to every opportunity creatively that I was getting from photography. Yeah. And then that's what led me to become a creative director, because it forced me to like learn a bunch of skills. So I was first just Tiny's photographer. Yeah. And that's like a whole other story, but I was first Tiny's photographer, and then I became a photographer slash music video director for him. So I would help him, you know, come up with ideas for music videos, and then also execute and direct the music videos. But then they also asked for like, oh, like, you know what? We like his music videos. We like his photos. But what about his album covers? I'm like, okay, well, back to graphic design days now, right? So then I was like, yeah, of course I can make covers. And for the first like year, 2 years working with Tiny, like I didn't have the chops just yet to do a lot of graphic design work and stage visuals and all the things they needed. So I just like hired out of my own pocket people to do it for me. But like I knew what the vision was. Like I knew what he needed. I just didn't know how to like make it. Right. But I wasn't about to be like, sorry, man, I don't have that skill. Like you can find somebody else. Yeah. Because I still felt like I could do it better than anybody. I just don't have the technical part. Right. So out of pocket for like a few years, I would just pay to get my ideas done. And even if Tiny didn't like it, I would just like, or Lex, the team, I would just keep shoveling more money from my other freelance on the side to like get the art perfect. Yeah. But they you know, when you're just like a client, they have no idea what goes on behind the scenes. Of course, but this is like how I built my portfolio until eventually I ran out of money. And then I was like, oh, fuck, like I have to learn how to do all of these because it's just not going to be sustainable. Right. Especially in the music industry, the budgets are like either great or they're just not great. Yeah. So then, you know, after like 2 years of doing that, I had the relationship and we really liked the work that we were creating together. And I didn't have any more money. So I was like, okay, now I need to learn everything. Yeah. And then from there, that's which was perfect timing with Data then, because with Data, had that project come like 2 years before, I just would not have been ready. And I probably would have went like so deep in the hole trying to outsource everything. But what was amazing with Data was also another important skill that I've learned through outsourcing is I made a lot of connections. So another part of being creative director that's so important is just like being present in the art scene and knowing who to hire based off of your connections and your taste level, right? It's about getting the job done as best as possible, credit aside. Like you don't have to do all the work. You just have to facilitate and execute a vision. Sometimes that looks like you're doing a little bit. Sometimes that looks like you're doing a lot. Or sometimes that looks like knocking on doors till you find the right person. Yeah. You know?
Are you familiar? I mean, I'm sure you know of him, but I once there's this clip that goes viral every once in a while. Yeah. Of like Rick Rubin, and he's like, "You pay me, for my taste."
I haven't seen that clip. But
he's like, or he was like, something to the effect of like, "You don't pay me to execute the work. You pay me to because my taste level is at the level of your consumer."
Right, exactly. So it's not about like the amount of time you put in, it's just like you're just getting the vision.
Yeah, it's the vision.
Right? I think at this point in my career, I hope like that's how it is. You know? But there's still some clients where like you could do some work and they're just like, you know, this took you like 30 minutes. You know? But it's the same with like Picasso, right? Like for example, because this is what I find in my own taste level as I get older. I just feel like there's so much overconsumption in the media and just so much of the same repurposed ideas that it almost feels like the world has too many ideas and too much design. There's too much design, there's too many videos, there's too much music. It almost seems like the best solution now is just to refine it to the simplest form and then just put that out. For example, like For example, like let's say like the whole landscape of art right now is just like a bunch of paintings, like Picasso paintings and like Leonardo da Vinci paintings and Michelangelo paintings. Let's say they're all oil-based paintings. In my opinion, the next piece that the world is missing is a refinement of that, which is almost like the polar opposite. For example, like when Picasso then switched over to, let's say, 3-second sketches of like birds and faces, you know? So for example, back to what you were saying, even though that execution would take like Picasso maybe 30 seconds to do a little drawing, it was the fact that he decided to do that instead of a painting is like what you're paying for.
Right.
You know? So once someone asked Picasso for a favor and, Picasso actually once asked someone for a favor. So let's say like I'm Picasso asking for a favor. This guy does Picasso a favor, and then in return, the guy's like, hey, like, you owe me a favor back. Like, I would like a piece of your art. Picasso's like, sure, no problem. Draws like a little face and is like, here you go. And the guy's like, dude, what the hell? Like, how long did this take you to make? And he was like, 60 years. And the guy's like, oh, fair enough. Yeah. You know?
True.
So yeah, that's like, I think you got to work your way up to be able to do something like that. Yeah. But it's, again, you can almost relate it to like Virgil Abloh, where maybe at the beginning his like designs were really maximalist, but then you're still going to the store at the end of the day for a t-shirt that just says like quote t-shirt on it, right? And like, are you going to judge that based off of that it took him 3 seconds to make? Well, if that's like the character that you are, then maybe the shirt's not for you. Right. But at the end of the day, like, you're buying it as well for that taste, right?
Right.
So
you touched on a couple of things like that I strongly believe. And that's one, when you're starting out, say yes to everything.
Yes.
So like a little bit of backstory. So like, okay, around actually this time last year, I had lost my job at a creative agency, which was my first agency out of college.
Shit.
And I was like, well, what the hell do I do now?
Fuck.
Like, I was like...
Lost your, like, fired?
Dude, literally, I was like, well, if I'm not a writer, what am I? Like I went in like a dark place. But during that time,
like, you doubted yourself.
Yeah, man. I was like, damn, like, is my work not good enough to be out there? Whatever.
Right.
But it actually turned out to be one of the best things for me. Like,
kicking the butt,
dude. No, and not just that, but like, it forced me to be like, first, do I still want to do this? Yeah. Second, what's my voice?
Right.
And like, I really had to discover that, like. So during that time, I just to make money, I said yes to everything.
Yeah, that's good.
So like,
it's exhausting, but it's good.
So the blessing in disguise was at that time I had been doing. Right now, I think we talked earlier. I've been doing podcasts for like 3 years now. So I had podcast editing experience from start to finish, like all that stuff. Through contacts that I made doing this podcast, I landed a production job for someone else's podcast, in which they interviewed Anuel.
Wow.
Which was a huge, like, get. Because I was like,
to go from, like, fire to then on set with a big artist.
Dude, like, it was literally, like, but that happened because I said yes to every single, like.
Yeah, you got to.
Eventually, like, it led to, like, a room I never thought I would be in.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah. That's the way it goes. And you got the confidence.
Yeah. And then another thing you said, which I think is very important, especially as someone, like, for example, I'm in the advertising, like, industry, is being able to sell your work. Yes. Because you work so hard on these ideas. Yes. And sometimes, like, in my case, like, I'll present ideas to a creative director. They get approved, cool. We'll present it to a client. Yeah. During that process, if you don't pitch your work good, like, well, yes. It's dead.
It's dead. Well, what's the whole thing? Like a B idea, A-level presentation. Yeah. Always beats like an A-level idea with a B-level presentation. Yeah. Right? So, I mean, I see it every day in my own life. Yeah. For sure. And I think that's like a really important point to touch upon, which is like for a lot of creatives out there that have really great ideas, if you're only focusing on your ideas when you're presenting to a client or sending like a deck, let's say, for example, if we're talking about decks, you need to spend I spend more time on my deck design than I do on the idea. The concept comes within like an hour. Yeah. The deck is like a few days maybe, you know? Yeah. So, but that deck, you also remember, like, when you're designing a deck, it's not one deck fits all. You have to design the deck for the client.
That person, yeah.
Correct, exactly. So if you're dealing with like a client who is maybe more corporate and maybe a little more stiff, and it's more of like
safe.
a polished, safe, like high-end piece. Like you're most likely going to be using a lot of neutral tones, a lot of like minimalist fonts, and like you're going to want to like make it so they can relate to it versus a lot of like bold and poppy stuff, right? Maybe that would work better for like a pop singer or whatever. But all my decks inherently then look different because I'm catering them to the different clients. And that's like, again, the metaphor you could look at almost like a physical piece of work presented in the right room is everything, right? So for example, like, let's say you were to make an object and put it in like you know, a crappy mall room, right? And you're trying to sell this object to like a client. Well, they're going to like base the object based off of the entire vibe of the entire room, right?
The room.
Exactly. But if you put it in like the most like epic art gallery of all time, even if it's like a trash bin, and you're like, this is the best trash bin ever, and you put it in like a concrete palace or whatever, they're going to love it, right?
Yeah.
So that's, again, that's also something you can learn from sales. That's something you can learn from pitch decks. But I think that's just how even fashion is sold too, right? Like you have Balenciaga and, you know, every big brand, you walk into the store and it's like, they're fucking the coolest places. Yeah. They can just put anything in there. And they don't even need to put clothes. Like put like fucking goldfish and I'll buy them. You know, it's the sickest gold. Why are these goldfish so cool?
Like right? I find, so we a while ago, we interviewed Andres Pestana, who's like a designer, but also he studied like architecture, which is like a crazy background to like get into design, or at least like
very cool,
like fashion.
Yeah, spaces.
Yes.
Yeah,
and we talked about like how some of these stores like are just creating a whole vibe, and then how that translates to like selling.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's crazy, like the human psyche of like we walk into a place. Yeah, you're just more likely to sell if like things look a certain way, or like the overall vibe of
dude. So even on that note, I like when approaching an album, let's say I'm doing visuals for an album, I will do the store first before the cover. Like a lot of times, and people have problems with that, right? Because clients want to see the cover. I want to see the cover now. Yeah. And you're like, you know, the one-off covers like don't really work anymore. There's just an oversaturation of design. Yeah. So what people are going to buy into is the story of the cover. What is the world around it? Yeah. And the most badass thing, in my opinion, is just doing nothing for a cover. Like, how do you get away with that? How do you get away with just like a font or the Picasso little thing? Yeah. You build the world around it, so then you can do the most like opposite thing that anyone would expect, but it feels so much better because it's so unexpected and you understand it. Yeah. So now when I get a project, everything is built around it, and the cover is maybe the last thing, you know? Yeah. Maybe you have an idea for a cover, but like the world is what sells the thing at the end of the day. So I would even start a clothing line with the same approach. You know, I would probably look at what is the store I want to walk into? What's the website? And then once you know what that is, you're like, well, we could just fucking sell white t-shirts, and they would probably sell out because
the concept is strong.
Correct. Yeah. Exactly. You know? So that's how I approach all my work, to be honest. Yeah. Yeah.
Going back a little bit, you mentioned like, all right, you were an entrepreneur, you did a bunch of things, which is also very important. Try a lot, you know, and fail often and early.
Yeah. Millions of times.
How did you actually get to meet Tainy? Like at first, like how did that even
that's a
come up, and what year?
Yeah. I think it was so I think I met Tainy like 6 years ago, I would say, in like a van. I was like brought on to take photos of him for like some interview in LA. Okay. But I was in LA shooting a different artist, and then it just happened that I finished early, and I was working for Lex. Okay. So Lex was just like, you're going to go shoot this person, and then there was one extra day, and he's like, there's one other guy, you know, if you have time, like come shoot this guy. Yeah. And that's when I met Tainy for the first time. And I guess like from there, everything changed in my life. But to get to that point, so that was like 6 years ago I met him. So maybe it was like 7 or 8 years ago, I decided I was working at an ad agency similar to you, and then I was let go as well. But the agency like crumbled. So the whole thing just dissolved.
Happens a lot, actually.
Yeah, it's like they're startups, right?
You'd be surprised.
Story of my life. Yeah, exactly. So I'm at this startup, and after like 2 years, that was it. But the startup still had clients, and I was like doing a lot at this startup. So the clients were still like, Elliott, we still want to work with you. Like, you still make us videos and photos. Yeah. I was like, yeah, no problem. So
yeah.
I continued the relationship with them, but then I also like had that moment. I'm like 26 or whatever, and I'm thinking like, wait a minute, if I just like keep doing this, I will do this forever. I can't do this forever.
Yeah.
Like, what about music and stuff?
I know.
I want to like enjoy my work, right?
Yeah.
So not to say there was anything wrong with that. It just wasn't. I wasn't overly passionate about
Right.
it. I'm not like waking up in the morning like I can't wait to shoot like another bank card commercial.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
I'm not like dreaming of finances.
Yeah.
Like I want to like rock out with Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah, yeah.
So in my spare time, after I made that decision, that's like, there's another topic we could touch upon, which I feel like is important for people to hear. A lot of people that are film directors or writers or let's say musicians, they don't like call themselves any of those things until they hit whatever milestone they feel like is in their head. Like, oh no, I'm an aspiring creative director. I'm like working my way up to become a film director.
Yeah. It's
like, dude, there's no rules, And if you just tell people you're kind of sort of doing that, then like all your work will just be kind of sort of, What you need to do is what I did was after like that company shut down, I was just like, fuck it, dude. I'm a film director. I'm a film director in the music industry. I just like didn't think twice about it. Like updated my like IG bio because like that's what we do now to like make things official. And I just fucking changed it to like film director. And I had like no films that I directed. But that doesn't mean that I'm not a film director. It just means that I just don't have a lot of films, you know? But there's no like, no one knocks at your door after you make 14 films and they're like, hey, like here's your official certificate.
Your film director certificate.
Yeah, like what did the heck, there's no measure, right? It's just whatever you believe in. So when you start believing more in yourself and that you are that person, it's just people haven't seen the work yet, then you operate from a better level and you have more respect for yourself and your craft. And you don't talk to people as if you're like a newbie, because like no one wants to work with newbies.
Right.
So I made that decision. And then from there, I took all my money that I had and I just started hitting up musicians in Toronto. And I was like, dude, let me make a video for you. Let me take your photos. Let me take your album cover, blah, 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 blah. I'll pay for the whole thing. And I hired all my friends and I paid them too. And I shot everything on film, which was like really expensive.
Yeah, I bet.
I was blowing like, I don't know, man, like 10K a project. And I was shooting a lot of projects, so, but then I was making money doing this corporate stuff. So eventually after like, I spent probably a year and a bit building a film director portfolio. So now my IG matched my portfolio and I was like, fuck yeah, I don't have to lie anymore, even though I wasn't really lying, but I had the portfolio. And then I was like, okay, I have a sick portfolio. I have a title for myself, but I don't have any paying clients. Like, this is a problem. What the hell do I do now? But I realized that one of the clients that I had met through the ad agency I was working at, they opened a restaurant. And one of the restaurant owners was a music executive named Lex Barrero. Right. And since I had already like, had a lot of experience with this restaurant because I took all their like IG photos and I like helped out with their website and their branding. I was like, this is an easy transition to like talk to this guy instead of like cold call or knocking on the door being like, hey man, you don't know me at all, but can you hire me? Right. Yeah. So I was like, this is my first shot. So I just like, I told everyone at the bar, I was like, yo, I don't know when Lex is coming, but when he does, like, just let me know because I'll come by because I want to talk to him. And I think I waited like a few months. In the spare time I was waiting, I was like building a website. And I actually built the website specifically for him because I knew that like I would have a few seconds with him in a bar and I need to impress him when he would come to visit on my phone because like, how do you show anyone your work? Like you have to show them on your phone. Yeah. So I was like, all right, I'm going to probably meet him. I'm going to show him my work on my phone. And hopefully that's enough to like get his phone number. Then he looks at it later. So I paid a bunch of money to some homies of mine to like make me a website that would look impressive. this is a sales pitch that I was working towards for the situation that I knew I was going to be in. Because I thought about this in advance. And then I did all of this. And then eventually someone called me and they were like, yo, Lex is here. Like, come by if you want to meet him. Like, sick. Like, pull up with my camera, pretending I'm like working, but I didn't even have to work that night. And then I like, bumped into him. Oh, hey, like, what's up? Yeah. I just talked to him. I was like, yo, you don't really know me, but I like do all the branding for your bar. I'm sure you've seen it. Like, showed him my phone. I was like, this is my portfolio. And I'm thinking like, hey, well, here's like all my money and like my one shot. Hopefully he likes this, right? Yeah. And like, luckily he did. He like caught his attention. He was like, oh, like this is like a cool website. This is dope. Like, who the hell are you? I'm like, I don't know. I'm sure you're busy, but like, just give me a text or whatever tomorrow. I gave him my phone number. And then the next day he actually like texted me early. This was like a Sunday, I think. He was on like, it was like a Latin night, of course, in Toronto. And then he texted me Monday morning. He's like, yo, can you come to Miami Friday this week to shoot a music video? I have like 10K for Mozart Laa. And I was like, oh shit, like I don't know anything about reggaeton really, but let me like Google all this, and obviously yes. That was the first time anyone offered me any money. So I put together a small team. I had no idea what the hell I was doing. Hopefully like he didn't know that. I'm sure he probably had an idea, but I ended up like shooting the video. We shot it all on film. Mozart was like 7 hours late. We had like 3 hours. Everything changed, but I was used to like working in chaos because of, you know, being an entrepreneur. You just like roll with the punches. And we ended up making like a really sick video. We went to New York and like showed it to Spotify, and they really liked it. And it became like this sort of new branding for this artist from the Dominican Republic. Yeah. And then Lex really fucked with it, and he was like, yo, this video got 1 million views. Like Mozart looks way different. He's like, I like this vibe you're doing. It's like a Toronto vibe, but like the reggaeton industry doesn't have this. Right. And then he just sent me immediately to the DR with the DP friend of mine, Tristan, and we shot like 4 more videos for Mozart. He gave me like a bigger budget. We like lit a car on fire. We went into a jail cell. Like we went off, dude. That's awesome. I was like, this is my big break. Like I own a car actually in the DR because I bought one. You just left it there? Oh, I was like, I can't bring this. It was like set on fire. Yeah. I paid this guy like $700 cash. I was like, give me, like, oh, can I just have this? He's like, yeah, you have money? I was like, all right, it's your car now, dude. Like, sweet. So that car is somewhere. Yeah. It's probably just sitting there, right? Yeah. Unless this is like fucking gone now. But yeah, so that happened, and then those videos did really well. And then I went to LA to shoot Mozart for something, and then it was on that trip where Lex was like, you know what, I think he's like ready for like round 2. But during this time I was also a nightclub photographer. So on some like NWell shit that you were telling me about, I would actually I started flying home to shoot nightclub photos in Toronto, and then within a 24-hour time period, I would fly out to shoot Tainy on music video sets. And one of the first sets he was on was with J Balvin, Benny Blanco, and Selena Gomez. And I was shooting the press photos for that, and I didn't even really know that. So I would go from like getting like bullied from like club assholes, spraying me with bottles, being like, bro, like let me see the photo you took of me. Wow, that's super whack. To then within like, yo, send me that. Like, yeah, literally. And being like, dude, you're not good at this. And then within like a 7-hour window, I'm like, hey, Selena, do you mind just like looking into the camera? Yeah. Like, great. Boom. So at that point, like it made all the club, I knew like the club days were done. Yeah, I was like, I was going in there with a big smile. What? You don't like your photo? Fuck you. Like literally. Not like disrespectful, but in my head, I was like, yeah, like, say whatever you want. You have no idea. Yeah, like another time, the next shoot with Tainy was at like Diplo's house. So like within a 24-hour period, again, I'm like with like one of the biggest artists on the planet, and then I'm being sprayed in the face with like vodka or something from some dick, you know? But again, I had the internal like, just wait and see, you know? They don't even know I just shot a music video with Diplo. Exactly, yeah. And then long story short, like Tainy was trying to find his vision, and him and I were spending a lot of time together because I was shooting for his Instagram and like helping him with like execute what he was going for, with experimenting. Stuff, yeah, exactly. And then he shot a bunch of music videos, but I don't think they were quite to what he was going for. And then I was like, dude, I know what you want. Like, I like the same, we like the same stuff. I'm like, let's just make the same stuff that we like. And then he was like, okay. And then at the end of the year, they hired me to do the first video I ever did for Tainy, which was like Lento. Yeah. And it was with like Sean Paul, Kazu, and Mozart again. Can't fucking escape this guy. Yeah. And then we shot that on 35mm. It was a way bigger budget. And it turned out like really sick, you know? Yeah. So then from there, the next that then led into the next year. And then, you know, Tainy was like, you know, I get along with Elliott, and I obviously like love Tainy. So he's like a brother to me. So then I was like, dude, whatever you want to do, like, I promise I'll do whatever I can to get there, you know? And that's the thing, like with the way I work too, and the way I work with Tainy is like, there's no limit. It's just like, dude, we just, however long it takes to get there, we'll just do that, you know? If that means I like step away from it and find someone, all I'm here to do is facilitate and create great art that contributes to the world of which is already oversaturated. And I think that's why Data was like so successful and so great in my opinion, because we didn't just like whip it together, dude. There was no like random ideas. Everything was well thought out. We brought cultures together, and it was very intentional, and we were very aware that we were trying to make something different that lend itself to a new perspective and new ideas in an oversaturated market. you know?
Yeah.
So that was a world of a difference. And for him to trust me to oversee everything and work on so many components of that, I think also you can feel it in the work, because when there's too many cooks in the kitchen, there's just too many ideas and taste levels, and no one's going to agree on everything. But it was great to just almost be pretty much in a room or in a WhatsApp chat with just Tainy and I being like, what about this? What about that? What about this for the merch? And if you go back and look at the project, it feels all the same. Even though there's all these different components, it feels like a thing. It all belongs in one room, you know?
Right.
So
it's all in the same store.
Exactly. Where some music videos from artists, you're just like, oh, this is the Billionaire's Boy Club store. Oh, this is like in the Balenciaga store. Oh, this is like a Gap thing, you know? Yeah. There's a lot of one-off stuff, but I think like there's a time and a place for one-offs, but not for albums, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like for a while, albums also like, they were more of like a collection of random songs.
Yeah.
As opposed to like a conceptual, like start to finish, this is the whole point of this.
Yes.
I think one of the people who like first brought it back and made it feel like, no, albums are special, was Bad Bunny.
Yeah, I was gonna
just because it's like,
for sure,
he didn't drop an album until like a couple years into his career. When he probably could have before.
Yeah, I think that was smart though, man. He was like building. It's almost like you're building a portfolio. Yeah. You're like wowing people with all these hits, and then when you get the respect, then you can almost. Then people will give you the time and space.
Yeah, you have leverage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have their attention.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and if you listen to each of his albums, it's like each of them has a clear like message of like, for example,
right.
Un Verano Sin Ti was literally like, it's a collection of all the summers he's ever lived. And then into one thing. Yeah, that's awesome. And it's like anybody could relate to that.
Yeah, it feels like that.
A summer when you're 13 and a summer when you're, already like 26 or whatever. Like,
yes.
They have a same but different vibe. And honestly, I thought it was genius. Also, I'm just a huge fan of him. And like, as a creative, also besides
he's great. He's got great taste. He's got a great team.
And he's always ahead of the curve.
He's great.
Like,
exactly. Always. Yeah, he is. He said it.
It's crazy.
He sets a lot of the tone and the pace, especially like, I guess like in the music industry in general, he really does raise the bar.
Dude, here in Miami, he really changed like, so like for example, dating myself here, but like I graduated 2016 when he first came out. Okay. Of like with like he dropped a song called Diles, which was like his like big hit that at least like reached here, and a whole generation of like Latinos here in the US, but especially in Miami. Who I told you before the interview, we were kind of chopping it up. And it's like you grow up here and like you're almost ashamed to be Latino. When he came out with like his first couple songs, everyone was like...
the tattoo, right? Dude, I'm from Puerto Rico.
Yeah. Everyone was like, wait, no, like I'm Latino and it's fucking dope.
Yeah.
And so like...
Yeah,
he changed like because it was we were used to like a trap sound. Like, right. And that was like our thing.
And he keeps changing the sound too, right?
Exactly, yeah. And like
beautiful.
when he married like reggaeton with trap, that was like our like, oh shit, like this is like this is different. Like he was one of like the first pioneers of that.
Yeah, I feel like Tainy was a lot behind that too.
Yeah.
With the sounds and stuff.
Yeah. There was a bunch of artists like Anuel was part of that.
Yeah, right.
Ozuna was part of that too. Like that whole group really changed like everything, especially here in the US market.
Yes. Yeah, and the visuals too. I would say like
everything was well more like thought out.
Yeah, I would say Bunny and Tainy too at the time. Like
that's
when they were coming out.
Jordan and Pippen.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
it feels like they really don't miss.
Yeah, I feel like because we started doing that film style and the more gritty stuff and removing a lot of the traditional like cliche elements. Like I never was into that. So when I was making videos and stuff early on, I would just say no to any of that. In fact, I had so many calls with labels, even with like Mozart, where they're like, okay, like we looked at the budget, but like, do you have to shoot it on film? And I was like, yes. Yeah. And they're like, so can you shoot it digital? And I was like, no, we cannot. And they're like, you can? I'm like, no, cannot. And that was like the one, and I compromised on everything else, but that was the one thing I was like, no, fuck no, dude. Like, we have to keep it raw. We have to keep it to the craft, and like, that I think because I stood behind that like so long ago, I would say like even most music videos, if not like a lot of reggaeton videos, they're all shot on film now too. Yeah. Not even a way to be like, oh dude, I set the tone, but I think like back to what you were saying in terms of that shift from just like I guess that trap or whatever, reggaeton music, to now like where Bunny has gone.
It's more like experimental.
There was a visual movement to go along with that, you know? And I would say like, you know, Bunny and Tainy and a bit of those other artists you mentioned also were on there, and now it's just almost the standard, you know? So I'm looking for the new standard, right?
Yeah.
Back to what we were talking about before. What's like, now that there's like paintings everywhere, what's like the minimal drawing we can do? Yeah. So that's where I'm at.
I saw this quote that was like, media's consistent, art isn't.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, I find that to be so true, just especially because like being filled with so much in your face every day, it's almost like to stand out, you have to do almost nothing.
Correct. Yeah. Like, yeah, we just have to be so authentic.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, dude, that's so important. And then, you know, with that, it's hard because there's such a pressure as well to, I feel it all the time. I'm sure all artists feel it, but there's a pressure to like have to constantly post, you know. This is like the one time in the last like 5 years where I haven't put out a project in like 6 months, you know. Like I haven't posted in literally 6 months, but I'm working on a bigger project that's taking a lot of time. Right. But I still think that like because of that consistent media, like you were saying, we're always filled with that stuff. You get that pressure that almost ruins art, because like you're gonna with like the timelines, you're not gonna get there. It's not gonna be as authentic. You're gonna rely on trends, and then everything starts feeling the same. Yeah. But the challenge is like outside of all of that crap, it's the ones who change things are the ones that, you know, set the bar higher. The ones that open new perspectives. We need change, or else like we're all just gonna explode. Yeah. Right. We're gonna get tired of it. We're gonna get pissed. Like there's not gonna be any love or positivity, right? So that's my perspective on it, at least. So I'm trying to hold down the fort and not give in and just post some shit, you know?
Like an angry old man, like
exactly.
It's like I'm gonna stick to film.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
But dude, so that, I mean, now knowing that you've been working with him for a while, you probably you probably touched this project too. But I was at when he performed at Oasis. In that cube.
Yes, yeah.
You were a part of that too, then.
Yeah, that was a lot of work.
I bet. I mean, like production-wise, I have videos on my phone of that. Like it's crazy. It's like I remember being there, and like my friends who were not like in like the creative space at all. I literally was looking around. I'm like, this is like insane. Like
yeah, it was nuts. I mean that cube project is like 3 years old now. So those visuals took like a year to make. Actually, I made them with a team in Toronto. And then the idea stemmed from like Tainy and Lex and their team, and I contributed a bit to that. And then we had a conversation. They're like, okay, well, we're thinking like a cube thing. And then I was like, okay, what else? And they're like, that's where we are.
It's a cube.
Fuck, why does it? Yes, it always goes down like this, right? Yeah, it's like a drawing or like a reference photo. They're like, we're thinking this, but we're not really sure. All right, now go.
Yeah.
That's like the creative process.
Right.
Even with Tainy, he's like the Dynasty videos. He like hit me. He's like, send me a photo of Michael Jordan with like a trophy in the bathroom. Yeah. He's like, I'm thinking this for like the videos, and I was like, all right, say less. Like because I spent so much time with Tainy, I was like, give me 5 minutes. Like I know all the videos now. I drew them all out. I was like, maybe this. Then you go back and forth, right? But with the Cube project, it was again like they had this idea of the cube with like Tainy, and then there was just so much work to like actually figure out how it makes sense. How do the visuals go around the cube? What happens like behind it? What are the, like, is there a color palette for like all the sets? Like what are the fonts like? What are the transitions? How do we actually make the footage? Who's the guy? Like, what about the cube? Like So that was about a year of work, and then after we did that, then there was the Puerto Rico show, which now like he's touring with some of like the elements from that and some other custom ones. But even with that, there's like, I don't know, you just figure it out. Yeah. Literally. Yeah. It's literally just about like, you know, doing a lot of research and just asking questions. That's all I do. It's like, it's so simple when you really break it down. It's a lot of work, but it's simple. It's just like, let's just focus on one song, or okay, like what would this song look like? Do you like this video? You find something close to it. And they're like, yeah, I think something like that. You make like 7 examples. They're like, what about this? And then maybe they like one of those things. You're like, oh, like now I kind of see how this is shaping. You take that, and then you try to like build out 5 songs now. And you're like, okay, what would a set look like? What about the 4 different sets? So Yeah, the process, and then you just find the people that do it. Then you like that, you find the aesthetic that they land on. You find someone on Instagram who does something similar.
Then comes the production side of it.
Yeah. Then you lose all the money, and then you do it again. Yeah, but that's how that project went down. It's truly sick to see. Like that's like the coolest shit too.
Like seeing it come to life.
Well, yeah, because like the exaggeration, like the polarity from like looking at something very small on your phone and on a computer screen to being like, I think this will translate in front of like thousands of people, but you're like not sure. And then it's not like a music video where you like shoot it, then you watch it on the TV and you're like, oh cool. Like it's literally like you watch it on your computer and then you see it in a stadium and you're like, oh, that's how it's looking. True, right? So that is like the more exciting of all the mediums for sure. Yeah. But that is a fun one.
Dude, one of the stories that like caught my eye when you guys were talking on stage during that event. Yeah. During the Art of Being Latin was a story of like how you guys had to go to Japan. Yes. To meet with the artist.
Yeah. Just trying to find the team and trying to find just what the project was going to be. The interesting. So this is really cool. Like this is the amazing thing that I've learned about working with Tainy is that he has like a somewhat of a set idea of what he wants to do. And again, as a creative director, you don't like go to an artist and say like, dude, here's what you're doing. You know, you just listen and you ask questions. Again, I'm here to guide the ideas to the finish line, pull them out and offer examples from my own research and connections for how they can be done with your own flavor on it, obviously, right? Because like you have to like it too. But with Japan, it was kind of just like, you know, Tiny's a very chill guy, so I'll just be like, dude, what are we doing? He's like, we're gonna go to Japan. I'm like, cool. Like, what do you want to do? He's like, oh, we'll figure it out. I was like, oh, all right, that's cool, right?
Yeah, we'll go to Japan.
And as a producer, that's like the worst nightmare. And I'm always thinking from a producer standpoint as well, because oftentimes like I'll have to produce a lot of it myself. Like I don't have like 6 people helping me. Like I'm just with Tainy in my computer. Yeah. So I'm not going to be like, this is cool. Like, let me just hire a producer. Like, and normally it's like, I have to executive produce somehow. Like I have to think about what cameras am I bringing down? Like yes, we'll figure it out, but also we can't like figure it out in a foreign country. You know what I mean? So, but also you can is the thing. That's the beautiful part is like, he showed me that you can, because like what you want to do is you want to find that inner voice and that inner feeling that's telling you what you need. I think if you overplan, then you limit the possibilities of allowing a better idea to hit you in the face. Yeah. So for me, like we had rough ideas. Like I was like let's at least aim to like figure out some. And then when we got there, I was like a kid in the candy store. It was the first time ever being in Japan. We're driving around for like a few days. And I just remember like I couldn't even sleep. I was like so excited. And then once there was one night where I went to bed and I figured out like what the visualizers could be, like Tainy with the speakers. I was like scrolling on Instagram, looking at his account, and I'm like, I think I know what we can shoot on this trip. And I just woke up the next day and was like, what if we shoot this? And like drew it all on a napkin and was like, if I find a team that can help us make this, like, can we do it? And he's like, yeah, it seems cool. Yeah. And I was like, okay, well, now I got to do the producing side. Right. So then from there, then, you know, we talked about the cover and then like, how the hell are we going to meet that famous guy? But then we met and we had a friend there who's like a producer and like a tour guide and a translator. So I like became really close with him. And then he was like kind of the man for this project. Because like there were so many collaborators, as you know, with Japan. Anytime we need anything, his name was Sho.
You'd have to go to him.
Yeah, like Sho was the man, dude. He's the fucking goat. So I was just like, Sho. Yeah, because I don't speak Japanese. So I'm like, hey, I was like, dude, Tainy really wants to do this. Like, I know for a fact I can't knock on this guy's door, but you can. You know the language. Like, you have to do this. And he's like, Elliott, like, you're crazy. And like, yes, I will try, you know? So yeah, there was a lot of random stuff and a lot of ideas we didn't know going into that project. But if you don't sleep for a month, you can make a lot of dope shit. Really, yeah. You know? But I listened to my inner voice and I listened to Tainy and I just kept showing him stuff.
Dude, I think that's what it's all about. Like, honestly, like in anything you do, it's like, I talked about it during like, if I was forced to find my voice as a writer. Yeah, exactly. And like, dude, I didn't, even when I wasn't working, like I still wrote every day. Because I was like, I didn't want to lose like the practice of like doing that. Because I was like, once I stop, then I'm for real not a writer.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, and then you find that you're doing it because you need to do it. Yeah. You know? It's the stuff that you feel like you need to do, that you get like the most out of life, and that you feel like is important to share. That's the stuff that you should be doing and getting paid for. Yeah. You know? I
also found out, I was like, what I felt like at least my mission was, or like what was actually important to me. I found during that time, that's when I started working with, like viewers know, like with the Casa Lou, the drink. It was a startup by like 3 Venezuelan kids in college, told like, you guys are just kids with a can. Like you guys can't make anything. Now they're the first like Latino rum seltzer. Like
crazy.
Like they're in all these like Latin festivals. Like and it's working with them is like, growing them is also like what filled me up during that time. That's why I still work with them today.
It's for the art, man. Yeah, dude, for the relationship.
Yeah.
I think most creatives can relate to this. Like,
and a client who never says no.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they're always down to try shit.
That creative freedom. Oh my god,
dude, they're always down to try shit. Like if I bring an idea to them, like that's sound, not something that's like half baked. I'm like, hey, look, like I think we should try this. Like this thing makes sense.
They're like, hell yeah.
They're like, let's do it. What do you need?
Yeah.
And like that's the best thing as a creative, is like someone who's like,
dude, yes. And like, there's nothing more beautiful than like working with people that you really respect and that bring a lot to the table and that are just sick people, you know?
Yeah.
That was like why the data project was so great too, because I was able to, because I was at a higher level in the project, like overseeing and directing and stuff. I could bring on my own team. You know, I wasn't really forced to like work with people I didn't want to. And when you can just create your own team, then not only is it way more fun, but then it makes those like late nights like totally worth it. It makes it way more satisfying. Yeah, and it's again like I didn't like make any of these projects for like to make money. Like if you want to make money, you do finance. But I do all this stuff because like I think it's important, and I also get to do it with like sick people, you know. That's like what I love about it. It sounds like it's the same for you.
Yeah. Dude, it's honestly crazy. I was gonna say, so we were talking a little bit before, just as we were meeting each other, but like, dude, how'd you feel during that talk? Like I feel like to me, like it seemed like it was natural. Like honestly,
dude.
like I mean,
like the thing is, I do have experience, like obviously with sales, like we were talking about, but like public speaking is like a whole. I had to do like a lot of presentations, in school and stuff, and I have to present, in front of clients and work, but there was a lot of people, dude.
It was packed.
Yeah, and like I get really burnt out easily, so when I get burnt out, because I'm always working and thinking, like then my like nervous system gets like a little shot, and then I get a little anxious, and then so I was already like riding the line of like, oh god, like hopefully this isn't like too stressful. And I stepped out, and there was fucking packed. I'm like, of course it's packed. It's Tainy, and I was like, oh god. So internally I was like, just keep calm, do not panic, answer the questions, and everything will be key. You know? But I think by the end of that, I like warmed up a bit, and I was like, oh, like okay, I got the rhythm, but that was a first for me, you know?
Yeah.
So, hey, I didn't crash and burn, though. So, at least...
That's a different animal. Like, so, about a little bit over a year ago, me and my co-host, we did, like, a live show version of this. And it was literally, like, dude...
out of your body, right? Dude,
when I tell you, like...
You're just completely out of it.
Say yes to everything. We didn't even know... Like, one of my boys, he was, like, a promoter... Or not a promoter, but he was, like, the manager at this hotel.
Okay.
He's, like... he was like, yo, like, have you ever thought about doing like a live show? He knows I've been doing the pod for a little minute. He's like, have you ever thought about doing like a live show? Like we have this like area here. There's like ball. It has like a nice
Kill
bar.
Tony kind of setup.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And he's like, oh, like it has like this bar area, like super nice. We went. We were like, dude, this is like top notch. Like we're like, well, holy shit.
Why not? We have to try.
I was like, and before even like I told the guys, and I was like. By the way, I already said yes. Like,
they're like, now we're just going to like scout, but we're like, doing this.
They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, I said yeah, because if I would have thought about it too much, it would have been no.
Because also, what's the worst that could happen? Even if you do like, I mean, I don't even know what the worst that could happen. It's probably embarrassing, but not even that bad.
At the worst level, it's like it's your friends and family, and it's like
exactly.
You know them already.
Yeah, but the thing is, you need that experience, especially with where you want to go. Like, anything at a high level is scary and hard. So just get it out of the way now.
Yeah, and then so
right.
bro, creative brain started working. We literally built out like a whole show.
Oh my God.
Within like, dude, we had like maybe like less than a month to plan this whole thing.
Yeah.
I had to like, we didn't make any money off of it. Yeah. We actually went under like because I was like, I was like, wait, now I need to buy cables.
Sure.
Because they didn't have any of that.
Sure. Yeah.
One of my boys who like was practicing how to DJ, I was like, hey, can you host this? Like, but it was so dope to see like.
But it changed things, right?
Yes,
afterwards,
man.
you're like, I could do this.
And honestly, I was like, oh, maybe like 10 people show up.
Sure.
Dude, we hit the capacity at the place. It was like.
Really?
Yeah, it was like a lounge kind of area.
Did you like advertise it?
Just on Instagram.
Okay.
Like nothing paid. It was like all organic. Like,
wow.
Like, yo, like we're doing this show. Like,
and you hit the capacity.
Dude, crazy.
That's insane.
But that was a moment that's like, it taught you, it's like, yo, say yes to everything and then figure it out.
So how did you feel when you were doing it?
Bro, I was cloud 9, dude.
You loved it?
Yes,
You
man.
weren't nervous?
No. So I told you.
What the hell? Good. So that's how you know you're supposed to be doing
dude,
this.
So I told you before, I was like, when I was growing up, I was like, I want to be a stand-up comedian.
Right.
And
the scariest thing ever.
Which it is.
Yeah.
And sometimes I try to write like stand-up just because like as a writer, like it's good practice.
Sure.
And it's also good like as like a form of like presenting and selling ideas.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a whole other animal. I've never tried it out like in a room.
Sure.
Like that's a different like level.
Yeah,
and I have a level of respect.
Not even the same thing.
Dude, no.
Yeah.
And so like that was the closest thing I had gotten because I was like, all right, look, we're gonna have this many segments. We have like roughly like an hour, 2 hours like of showtime, whatever. We'll start at 8, we'll end at 10.
Sure.
It was a Wednesday, dude. That's the crazy part. It wasn't even like a weekend. Like people like left their like homes on a Wednesday to go see like this show.
Crazy. Good for you, dude.
And that was like one of the moments where I was like, holy shit, like that was like a peak, like what the hell? Like we just dude, I remember all of us were like euphoric after. We're like, dude, we just fucking did that.
I can imagine you had the high fives, right? Yeah. We're gonna be famous. I know it.
Dude, it wasn't even about that though.
Right.
Like that didn't even like we were like it was literally like, yo, I can't believe this many people came out.
Right. Yeah.
And it was.
But it shows you, right? You're like, man, if you do it at that level, then you have to keep running with it.
Yeah.
The money will always come. The money like for passion and art.
I always tell people
you're not gonna see shit for like 5 years. I didn't.
I always tell people like, if you want to make money, don't get into podcasting.
Dude, if you want to make money, just don't do art.
Don't do art.
Like maybe you will make money, but like not now. You know.
Yeah.
It's I'm still like trying to make money, and I'm like 5 years in.
Yeah.
You know? It's just
and you have the connections too, so that should tell you like.
Yeah.
Like how hard it is to like actually.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, like, look, like you'll still make money. Obviously, like we're all making money, but at the same time, you're not really.
That's
going
also
to
feeding like, but it's also feeding like the kind of quality of work that you want to make.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like
you're reinvesting all constantly.
Yeah, and it's the same for you, right? It's like you set the certain standard for what you want to put out there, and then you kind of have to just pay for that standard until someone like pays for it.
Someone matches it, or exceeds it,
Yeah, like you build a podcast up, and then you're paying for it until eventually the podcast starts paying for itself, and then you're not going in the hole anymore.
Exactly.
You gotta fill the hole back up.
Right. You're trying to recoup something.
I'm filling the hole back up.
Yeah, exactly. Nah, dude, but that's honestly like some of the biggest advice. Like I would say to creators is like, say yes to everything. Learn how to pitch your ideas.
Yeah, get good at one thing first too. I started with photography. That was like my gateway.
Be like this guy.
Yeah, just get good at one thing. Yeah. Like, there's no way like I could be doing anything that I'm doing now if I didn't have one thing that would have impressed Lex or Tainy.
Right.
You know, you gotta start with something, and you have to be good at it because like. For high level artists, they have access to everyone.
Yeah.
And now there's way more people too. So lucky for me, there was less at the time.
Yeah.
But again, if I was just like kind of good at all things, it's just like I don't really know what to use you for yet. But I was like, dude, I'm a photographer. Like hands down, look how good my photos are. 90% of my work was photography. You start with that, and then you start saying yes to things. Like for you, right? You do the podcast, you crush that, and then you go into I got this side comedy thing, I got this merch thing, blah blah blah. Right. Yeah. So that has always been like a question that people ask is like, how do I become a creative director? It's like, you don't like just like start creative directing. You start being better than everyone at one thing, And then you slowly start saying like, oh, like that guy didn't show up. Let me just like do the styling for you.
Yeah.
Because I'm like pretty good at that too.
Yeah.
I'll still direct, but I'll take care of the styling. Like I have a vision for this. And then they're like, oh, like, why don't we just get you style again? You know, then the graphic designer drops the ball. Elliott, do you think you could maybe do the graphic design? Yeah, let me see what I could do, right?
Yeah.
It's just that. You just fill in the blanks, but you always are still like filling your role, you know? Right. That's the best way to get into creative directing for sure.
I also feel like it's like if you're saying I want to be a creative director, the first step is calling yourself a creative director.
Yeah, yeah.
The first step is like you
have to acknowledge that like you are one, but at the same time, I still strongly believe that a creative director is something that you step into eventually. Yeah. It's almost like you act. I feel like, I mean, I don't know, like who the fuck knows anything, but I feel like you accidentally become a creative director. At least that's for me. I think I always sort of knew deep down that like I could potentially do it, like you were saying, but out of the gate, you can't really call yourself that until you definitely have a body of work that encompasses all of the different aspects, you know?
I feel like once you have your vision and people know you for that vision, that's when it's like,
exactly.
You're a creative director.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think like right before going into data, I had taken care of like a lot of merch stuff, music videos, photos, and stage visuals. So I was like, I feel like that's a criteria for a creative director. Like, let me switch the bio real quick.
Yeah.
And now like, I just love it, you know? And I know the term is like tossed around a lot, but I'm a creative director because that's just the title for whatever I do.
I feel like, once you do like a certain amount of things, it's like you can't bucket this into anything but that.
But the thing is, I'm down for anything. Like, I don't even care about labels. I just want to make really cool projects. Yeah. Even if I'm put on as like the guy who does the voiceover for some character. Yeah. Just hire me for that. I don't care what the title is. Like, I just have the creative director role because that's just what I did for the last few years. Yeah. But I'm literally just down for anything, you know? Yeah. So
is that like what's like a not like a bucket list, but like a milestone that you're like, I still want to hit this.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. The next
something you have your eyes on.
Yeah, I mean as a kid, like I've always loved film. So I got into this career because I wanted to see how far I could take executing movies. Yeah. And I still haven't made like a movie. A movie is like the difference between like going on stage and doing stand-up versus like a music video. You know, it's like, it's just a completely different animal, right? Yeah. So for me, I got into this business and into like art in general because I fell in love with movies at a young age, and like film just, you know, taught me a lot about myself, and I connect with, I try to watch like a movie a day almost. Like
what's your favorite movie right now?
Right now? The one that really got me this year, which is an old one, but I love it so much, is Dead Poet Society. You ever seen it? Yeah, that movie I feel like is, again, it's like the rebellion thing, right? So for me, my milestone is to eventually get back into filmmaking, specifically kids films. I think are very impactful. I love what like Pixar is doing.
Dude, I was just gonna say, I was like, one of my favorite movies of like within the last couple of years is Soul.
Yeah,
Soul is so
number
good.
2 for me.
Dude, that one is crazy.
Yeah, that one rocks me for sure.
Yeah.
I think about that movie like once a week, to be honest.
Dude, that movie
I'm learning how to play the score on piano right now. Straight up. That movie fucking rocked me. Like, that gives me hope. Like, that film is still cool.
That one leads into like kind of what we were talking about earlier. Like, if I'm not the guy's like, oh, if I don't play piano, like what? Like
exactly. Then
but
what?
It's like he always was a pianist.
He always had it. I had this just an idea about. I think we were talking about like being, you know, getting in the right mindset and identifying who you are even before you've created the work, right? Yeah. So if you're a creative, if you're an artist and you don't have any songs yet or any workout that you put out yet, you should still call yourself what that is. But there's another back end of this theory that I've been thinking about recently, which is really interesting. Yeah. So what's cool about, like, let's say you're a songwriter, right? For example, let's say you're like, you know, I don't know, John Mayer. Mm-hmm. When John Mayer was like 5, you could almost still, in a certain mindset, you could take the perspective that all of those songs that he wrote and that he performed lived inside of him even when he was 5, you know? Okay. So it's almost like the song you don't write the song. The song already exists within you. For example, like your career as a comedian, you're going to write jokes, you're going to go and you're going to do all this stand-up. Yeah. That already exists within you. You just have to find it. So it's a matter of finding it within you because it already exists. All those accomplishments are already within you. You don't do the work to like, you know, make them. They're not coming out of thin air. They're actually coming from internally inside of you already.
Yeah.
So that's a perspective that I like to take sometimes now when I'm thinking about making art or coming up with ideas. It's almost like, it's kind of like everything actually authentically lives within you already. And it's your job as a creator to discover who you are and where it is inside of you versus trying to discover it out there, you know? So it's all, with that perspective, it almost makes the journey a lot easier because it doesn't seem like you're not worthy of the goal or you're not worthy of the creation or that it may never come to you. It's more that it already existed this whole time and then you just have to find it inside of you instead of, you know, having to piece it together from nothing.
Right.
So with that perspective, I like to approach my work like that. And I think about that all the time when anyone's making anything, you know? So. Yeah,
it makes sense. Bro, before we get out of here, because I don't want to take you away from Tainy right now, bro. But
yeah, you guys pissed.
Real quick, one piece of advice you'd give to a creative out there who's listening.
If you're starting out, post as much as you can, because if you're trying to make a living off of it, the engagement and the feedback is what's going to tell you if you're doing the right thing or not. Pharrell once said, like, if you're fire, people will sniff it out and find you. Yeah. They can't find you or sniff you out if you don't post anything. So what really helped me at the beginning of my career was even if the photo was like not that amazing, or if I thought it was amazing, I didn't like gatekeep my own work. I just posted everything. So if you're starting out, you know, identify as like who you were trying to be. You don't have to wait till tomorrow. Just do it now. Post all your work and then base your next work and your decisions based off of what is now getting engagement, you know? Like, obviously, you don't have to let the world decide what kind of art you have to make, but you will know what kind of art is successful in the world if you listen to the world, right? And that's specifically if you want the world to engage with it and make money from it. So that would be my first piece of advice. And then my second piece of advice would be to be as authentic as possible and to be very cautious about what you're referencing. So if you can, like, reference for research to know the landscape of the marketplace, but then don't reference ideas for your own ideas. Try to go within and go back to what you really love as a kid and, you know, use your references as research so you know what not to put out there. And that would be like a strong place to start. A lot of artists will ask me for advice on some of their work or some of their films, or like, what can I do differently next time? And I would say, like, you know, obviously budgets and stuff are a concern, so you might have to tweak a couple things or maybe focus on a smaller part of the project. But you should start thinking about making the work that you want to make in the next 10 years. Make it now, you know? Like, there's no like jump, like there's no milestones, no one knocks at your door and says like, hey, now that you did a 3-minute music video, now you're ready for a short film. Like, if your goal is to just make short films, like, fuck the music videos. Make your award-winning, Oscar-winning short film right now. Like, now is the time to do it, because most likely, like, that might not even be the one to get you to where you're trying to get to, you know? So you'll figure out the budget and all that stuff later, for sure. There's always a way you can be crafty. You know, knock on doors. Just you can find money. Like, if you need to, you will find it. If, like, you know, life depended on it. But don't wait to down the line to make projects that you think you're not ready for yet. You are ready, just like we were talking about before. It already exists within you. Just work from that place. Yeah. So those would be my 3 points. And then how do you deal with creative burnout? Dude, because, like, it's so hard. This has been the last year for me. Like, I'll go through these, like, stages where it's like intense work. Yeah. And then just like mindless. Yeah. Like, I kind of hit a place in my career where, like, it's just always, it's like same day. I'm like, nah, I got the energy. And then just the end of the day, I'm like, oh God. It's just because I've been pushing for so long, you know, but also I love it. The deal with burnout is, like, you almost just have to accept that it's just part of the job. Yeah. And at this point, like, what helps me might not help somebody else, but I try to return back to the basics, which is just, like, focus on your diet, focus on exercise, focus on not going on your phone as much, watch your social media consumption, and surround yourself with like people that uplift you and the people that you love. Don't ever put your friends secondary. Friends are always first before anything. And that should be enough, you know?
Dude, you go to dinner with your friends and like just disconnect from like anything work, and it's like,
everything. That's life right there.
Dude, yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you like, you know, you can get caught up in like working to live, but like, or what is it? Live to work or whatever. Yeah. I don't know. The thing is like you
work
life,
to live. Yeah.
Yeah. Like your work can kind of take over your life, but I'm on the wave now of just like, dude, life is just about those moments with your friends. That's like what I work towards now, you know, just to disconnect. So, but it's just stages in your life.
Yeah, I feel like especially if you're like in a super like we talk about like media's everywhere, like it's so fast, like you get bombarded with it. Like, dude, disconnect, go somewhere cool, just be inspired by like the world around you. Like, dude, just go on a walk with your dog and like just maybe don't take your headphones today. Like,
honestly, that's one that's very important too. I've gone through lulls where I kind of like run out of ideas, or when I start to lose inspiration, I get like a little depressed. I'm like, fuck, like what's like exciting me? I don't know like what's exciting me at the moment. But when I hit those moments, I know that I just have to wait and actually not really wait. I actively seek things that I feel like might inspire me, like going to see a Pixar film, or like, you know, having a conversation with a new artist, or working on a new project. Like even right now, I'm in between almost ideas and sort of aesthetics that I've been into. So I'm taking a break from that, and I'm literally just gonna record like a music album on the weekend for fun.
Oh, nice.
Just as a creative exercise. So that just, but I don't think like burnout relies on you doing nothing. You actually have to actively find inspiration, you know? So there's moments, where you need to rest, but to continue the motivation, you have to actively work towards continuing to get inspired in new ways.
Bro, it's been awesome having you here, bro.
Thanks, dude.
Shout out.
Yeah. Fire, great conversation. Deep conversation.
Yeah, dude, like before we get out of here, and this is whatever you can talk about. What's next? So what's next that you can talk about?
Yeah, I haven't posted in like 6 months because I'm working on this like book that I'm creating.
Oh, nice.
And you know, I don't know how much of it I want it to be a surprise, but I'll tell you that it has to do with me trying to do the opposite of gatekeeping and trying to give back as much as I possibly can to the younger generation that, you know, they don't have access to certain contacts or certain tools or resources or ideas that I wish I had. And I'm sure tons of people, you know, need this as well. So I'm making this thing as a way to be like, you know, you guys use this, and then hopefully when you're my age, you're way ahead.
Right.
So I won't like give away any more of the project, but I have been working on it for like 6 to 8 months.
Oh, nice.
And now it's like almost into the printing phase. So that's what's next for me. Also, you know, Tiny's working on some music and stuff. So we'll see what stems from there.
What's going on with that,
And those two things, if you're listening, I would look out for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, bro, thanks for coming, bro. And
thank you, dude.
Just letting your ideas go. And
really let them go,
yeah,
right?
dude.
Yeah.
And to the listeners, thank you guys for supporting. If you're new here, definitely check out. I have a bunch of interviews with other creatives, like all over like artists, designers, directors. Again, thank you guys. I appreciate you guys. Remember, subscribe. We're everywhere. The Domino Tapes, TikTok, all that.
Yeah, raising the standard. Listen to this guy. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, but appreciate you guys, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.